Welcome home, neighbors.
Welcome home, neighbors.
Hello, neighbors.
We're listening from
Arizona,
Florida,
Maryland,
New York, New Jersey,
Minneapolis,
California,
Utah,
Michigan,
Iowa,
Massachusetts,
Georgia,
Canada,
our home resort is
Animal Kingdom,
Polynesian,
Bay Lake Tower,
Old Key West,
Riviera,
Boardwalk,
Alani Resort,
Boulder Ridge, Copper Creek,
Grand Floridian,
Saratoga Springs,
Beach Club,
and Wilderness Lodge.
and you're listening to
and you're listening
You're listening
to
my
BBC voice.
Well, welcome everyone to the community hall this evening. I am here for our intrepid general host, Chad, hosting the community hall this evening on one of my favorite topics. I'm a charter member here. I can't get my mirror or something, a charter member of Club Run Disney. So love Run Disney myself, and we're excited to be talking about Run Disney this evening with some folks who have a lot of experience with that. But before we dive into the show and I bring in our guests, I just wanted to thank DVC Rental Store for sponsoring the show. It's been helping listeners to My DVC Points help rent their points. If you need cash for a cruise, which is certainly our passion over here at the DCL Duo, if you need cash for a cruise or an Adventures by Disney trip, DVC Rental Store will pay up to $18 a point. Need some points for a spontaneous vacation, you don't have any left, you can go grab them at DVC Rental Store. I'll say this, we've used DVC Rental Store several times to run our points, and they're fantastic, and they make the whole process really easy and smooth, and so highly recommend them and appreciate them sponsoring this show. And so with that, let's bring in our fabulous co-host / guest this evening, Rebecca. Hey, how you doing?
Doing wonderful. How are you?
Good. And Jake is around somewhere. Let's see if we can get Jake into the show. Jake.
Hi, guys.
Hey.
I'm so excited about this.
All right. Are you all limber? Is everyone stretched? Because we're going to talk about some Run Disney. Everyone's got their, their band work done. Yes. All right. Well, let's dive into Run Disney. It's such a big topic. And there's the first question up. What in the heck is Run Disney? Jake, you want to tell people what Run Disney is? I think they see these crazy people around the parks a couple times a year, but what is Run Disney?
So Run Disney, in essence, is the road race division of in Disney World specifically as of now, and Disneyland Paris, where 4 weekends out of the year in Walt Disney World and 1 weekend out in Paris as of now, they dedicate to runners. And that's, if you've ever been to the parks, when you see people with their medals or multiple medals, it's because they ran a race that weekend. It's a lot of fun.
That's right. Yeah, it is a good time. They used to do it in Disneyland, but it's sadly, tear down my cheek, it's gone away many years ago.
Temporarily, hopefully. We'll stay positive.
Hopefully. Let's talk about some of the race weekends. Rebecca, what are the race weekends that they have generally every year?
So every year, the Run Disney season begins in November. It's always the first weekend in November, usually around November 5th through the 7th area, with Wine and Dine race weekends. The theme of the characters that are on each medal and for each race usually change. This past season was villains themed, and the different races that were there were the 5K, the 10K, and a half marathon. And then you also have the opportunity to do the challenge. And the challenge for any race weekend is usually going to include the medium race. So in this case, it was the 10K and then the half marathon. So if you complete both of those races after the half marathon, you will then also get your medal for completing the challenge. Next weekend after that comes in January. The first weekend after New Year's is Marathon Weekend, the only full marathon to be hosted in Disney World. But that weekend is always themed Fab Five. This year is a 90s themed run, and it's going to be so amazing. But there's a 5K, a 10K, a half marathon, excuse me.
I wish it were a half mile race.
Right? A half marathon and a full marathon. And there are three different challenges that you can complete during that weekend. You have the Goofy Challenge, which is the half marathon and the full marathon. There's the Dopey Challenge, which is all of them. So 5K, yes. 10K, half marathon, and full marathon.
All the medals.
And then if you do all of that and you're somehow crazy enough to book a cruise right after that, and you complete the Castaway Key 5K, you then get to complete what is called the Castaway Key Challenge, which is a whole new set of medals and ribbons and all that good stuff. So that whole weekend is always jam-packed. Next weekend is Princess Weekend, which is in February, if I'm correct. I haven't raced in Princess Weekend yet. This season, I will be in there. But and so around the mid-February mark, and that is also a 5K, 10K half marathon with the challenge included as well, with the 10K and the half marathon. And then last but not least, it used to be Star Wars, and there were other things that it was themed, but this year, or beginning this last April, was Springtime Surprise. And the Springtime Surprise race weekend was the very beginning of April, that first weekend as well. And it included a 5K, a 10K, and a 10-miler. And so the challenge was the 10K and 10-miler rather than a half marathon. But those are all the 4 weekends of the whole season, and that repeats every year.
Nice. Yeah. And just real quick on the Castaway Key challenge. So that challenge ties directly into a cruise. It was on the Dream. I'm suspecting maybe they'll move it over to the
It's
Wish.
on the Wish this year.
Yeah,
before
you move
that,
it over
on
the Wish. Yeah. And it is run exactly like a Run Disney event. And we'll talk about some of the logistics in a minute, but they've got it's not that you walk up to the little wooden sign on Castaway Key and start your run. They usually got like a big start line. They modify the course a little bit. So it's a fun time, and you don't get a rubber medal at the end. You get like a legit Disney medal at the end. So that's a fun time on the cruise line side of things. But Jake, why the heck would you ruin your vacation by running around a Disney park? Like, why do this? What are there perks to it? Because there's some drawbacks I think we'll talk about in a minute, or at least some challenges to overcome to get there. But why do this? Why do Run Disney?
Well, my first answer is, why wouldn't you do it? I mean, it's the best. But all kidding aside, the characters, the interactions, the entertainment, just the feeling of accomplishment. If you love running in general, like I love running in general, just being able to combine running and Disney, two things that I love together. I mean, it's absolutely priceless. I mean, the medals are incredible. The camaraderie around the parks. I mean, when you're walking around the parks after the races and you tell congratulations to, a stranger, and they tell you back, and it's the best. It's a good community. The merch at the expo is always a lot of fun. Registration day is a lot of fun. I find the stress fun. That's another thing I love to do. But really, it all goes back to the entertainment. Nobody does a race like Disney. I don't think I've done any race in the country that does it like Disney. There's so many rare characters. There's music. There's DJs on the course with strobe lights. I mean, it's a lot of fun. So, I mean,
it's run like a New York City marathon or a Chicago. I mean, it is a really top class production by Disney in terms of just the running logistics itself in general. So if you're looking to dip your toe into racing, just be forewarned. The first 5K you run with Disney, if you go to your local 5K next, it's going to be a little bit less well run, more than likely. But Rebecca, why do you run Disney? What makes you go out there and run with Disney?
I mean, he nailed it. The one thing that I look forward to when it comes to race weekends is just being in that community and being with that group of people. There literally is nothing like running with somebody and even if you're not a runner, just seeing the people that come in their costumes and these groups that are running with charities and the amazing things that they do with Give Kids the World and what is that one? The one big charity that they do it with, where they
it's not Make-A-Wish, is it?
Yes, it is.
Make-A-Wish Foundation? Yeah.
Just to see what they do. And I mean, like you said, it's a top-notch production with everything that's run. And when you get into corrals and the expo and the times and the transportation, I know we'll talk about all these things more in detail, but it's just I was hooked from the first weekend that I saw Willie run. I didn't run with him that first time that I saw him, but I was like, I need to be a part of this. And I hate running. I'm not a big runner, but it's just to be in that community and with this group of people that all have this purpose of loving Disney and just getting an experience that you can't get anywhere else in Disney.
Yeah, I mean, I think if someone's looking to do their kind of first race experience and they love Disney, like if this is their first time going out and doing it, I think it's a great way to get into doing the 5K, the 10K, like your first time really running in an organized event, because it is so well run. It's with it's a community of supportive people. I think there are also two really kind of interesting points about it being your first race. One is because it's all run on property, Disney can kind of control the entirety of the race, and so their finishing times. A lot of times you'll see races that have like minimum, pacing of a certain amount. Disney's tend to be very low because they really want everyone to be able to participate. Lots of run walkers out there. Rebecca, I think you mentioned costumes. Have you seen some crazy costumes out on course? Because unlike your 5K in your local town, people are getting dressed to the nines for some of these races. So I'm impressed that people are able to run in some of the stuff that they're in. But have you seen some crazy costumes out there?
We've seen it was either the 10K or the 10 miler. I think it was the 10 miler. It was coming up on NBA playoff season, and a guy was dressed as a basketball player, which was relatively normal run attire, but literally held a basketball the entire time that he ran, holding the basketball, like running with it up like this to pretend like for all his pictures so that he could look like this, like holding a basketball. I've seen people in full suits, like 7-piece suit sets, dress shoes and all, onesies, like fur onesies to dress like the Yeti for the 5K. I mean, it was great. These people go all out. That's part of the reason that some people run, is to make these costumes, and it's wild.
What about you, Jake? Craziest costume you've seen out there?
I've seen a lot. I mean, for me, out of all the 4 race weekends, I think you'll see the best costumes, in my opinion, at Princess Half Marathon. People just really, really go all out for that weekend.
Yeah.
Craziest costume is probably a few folks that I saw at the last one running in like full ball gowns. I think that's very challenging. So kudos to you for being able to do it. Yeah, I think that's as crazy. And then, of course, like she said, at the 10 miler, it was like a sea of bellhops, I think is the best way to describe it. And that was a lot of fun as well. So those bellhops and then, of course, the Princess Half, those got to be the 2 best that I've seen.
Nice. Well, and Jake, you've run. Gina, thank you. You're putting up some comments here for us from the audience. Thanks for that. We got Caleb up who says, "I've never done a Run Disney, but I'm interested." Yes, it's a great time. It's a great time. If you're interested, give it a try. And we're going to get into some of our favorite weekends here in a minute. But give it a try. What we got next here? Gina's RIP Disneyland Run Disney. Yes, I really wish they'd bring that back. I don't recommend a 5K ever at Disneyland. I'd kind of like to know more about that, Gina.
I think you have to go outside of property for that one.
I think you have to go outside of property for any race at Disneyland, and that's part of why they got rid of them, and then they haven't really brought them back, because they can't control the course end to end like they do at Disney World. Sam says here, "I so agree with you, Jake. Such a wonderful community. It is. It's super supportive, and there's lots of Disney Facebook groups out there just for the Run Disney community that are training tips and running groups and things like that." So yeah. Sam also says, "I love all the Disney bounding runners." Yes. There's lots of actually running companies now, or companies that have come on, like beyond just Etsy, that are making like bespoke kind of gear for Disney races, which is kind of interesting. Amy here says, 5K distance was one and done for me at Disney. It was a lot of travel time to only spend 30 minutes on the course. Yeah, that's a tough one. That's a tough one for sure. My wife did her first, I think it was 10K or 5K. I'm trying to remember how she's going to say it in the comments, but I know she ran the 5K. And it was like very quick. It felt very, very quick, and you had to be up very early for it. So let's talk about, before we get into the logistics of the day, let's talk about signing up for one of these things. So how do you find out about them? Where do you go to sign up? Like, what are the tips and tricks? Because these things, I mean, they go really fast, I think. So, Jake, what are tips and tricks for registration day?
So my first tip is, of course, the obvious one: be on time. If registration starts at 10 a.m., I would recommend pulling up the Run Disney website 15-20 minutes beforehand. And then my other biggest tip that I see, unfortunately, people just make such a big error on this all the time, especially if it's their first race, is to register for the race that is high priority for you first. Meaning, if you want to do the challenge and the 5K, and you're coming from really far away, get the challenge first, because it would be, really disappointing to just be able to get the 5K and that's all you get to do. Right. So yeah, look at the list, be like, okay, I could live without B, but I can't live without A. For me, that's always going to be the challenge. I always go for the challenge first. And then if I want to add on the 5K or the post-race party, which is included with the challenge anyways, that's a whole other story. Or any other add-ons like Race Retreat that they used to do, I'll do that second. I'll get what I want first, and then I'll go back into the queue and get what I want second. So those are my two big ones, and have, of course, your credit card, your information, and everything ready to go beforehand as well.
Yeah, and Jake, on that point of having your first, is there a strategy that you have? Because I think at times it's like, oh, I'm going to go get my dopey, right? Because those sell out quickly. But in fact, sometimes dopey lingers a little bit, right? Longer than a 5K, because more people can do the 5K. But have you seen any sort of rhyme or reason to which races go first at all?
It just depends on the year, really. Of course, anniversary years, things are always going to go a little bit quicker.
Yep.
For me, it's more of just because you never really know. Just it's always better to err on the side of caution. Yeah, if you're going to do the challenge in the 5K, typically the 5K will go first, but there's no guarantees. That's why I always just tell people, go for what you want first. That way, you're not as disappointed if you don't get what you want.
Yeah, this was an anniversary year, I think, for marathon weekend, right? It went for very
For marathon and dopey. It was the
Marathon, yeah,
30th for the
dopey,
marathon
yeah.
and the 10th for the dopey. So that
Right.
explains why dopey went in like a little over half an hour.
Yeah. Rebecca, what about you? Tips for registration day?
Based off of my most previous experience trying to register for marathon weekend, don't wait. The number one thing that you have to do is to be ready and prepared. But for the runners who are in Run Disney, what happened marathon weekend what happened for registration for marathon weekend was so unlike any other Disney Run Disney registration event that we were all confused. Like, it was really shocking to see it go that fast, anniversary or not. And to me, we've always witnessed that the races that are going to sell out the fastest are going to be the shorter ones, not necessarily because more people are doing them, but the spacing allowed for the certain amount of people on a 5K is a lot shorter than the amount of people that they can have stretched out over a half marathon, over a full marathon. So in past years, the marathon has never sold out, or the half marathon has never sold out. And so you wouldn't have to worry about when you registered for that. But every race that we've had to register so far in the past 3 weekends that we've done, we had to be right on it, ready to go, couldn't wait. And one thing that I struggled with a lot is you need to be logged into your My Disney Experience account as well. So I was trying to do it on my computer, which didn't have me automatically like logged in, and my payment wasn't going through, and I was getting really worried and really frustrated, like, oh my gosh, it's already sold out. I switched to my phone and it was like, wait, you need to log in. And so I Face ID'd and I went in and then finally was able to pay. So I wasted all that time, and it probably could have sold out, but doing it on your phone or doing it on multiple devices where you're already logged into your Disney account is also going to save you some time.
Yeah, someone needs to come up with like a setup that you can like have multiple devices in front of you just for the Disney crowd these days to get the dining race weekend. Everything is selling out much, much faster. And I don't know if that's capacity limitations or not. It looks like we got some comments here. Amy is saying, have a backup plan. Like if Goofy sells out, are you willing to run Dopey? If the half sells out, are you willing to do the full? Yeah, that's a great idea. And I think, Jake, also your comment about have your priority and go for it. The only tip I'll give, which is it's not a tip so much as it's kind of it's not even really a hack. It's kind of a luxury good, which is I mentioned Club Run Disney. If you're an avid runner and you know that you really want to do the Run Disney races, and I'd even go so far as to say, you want to do at least 2 or 3 in the year. Disney a few years ago, right before the pandemic, unfortunately, started Club Run Disney. But one of the benefits at different tier levels within the club is that you get a guaranteed entry into at least 1 race, and in some levels 2 races for the various weekends. And Disney basically emails you in advance, and you go in ahead of the general public and you secure your slot. So it is expensive. There's no 2 ways about it. It's it's not like being a member of Club 33 in terms of cost, but it is in terms of you don't need to do it to have a great time at Run Weekend. It's really just there if you want to kind of take some of the hassle out of it. So so that's an option for people that you can look into. And you get fun swag like a jacket. So yeah, well, let's talk about, so we've registered for these races. Maybe for the folks out there who haven't run before, or this is their first time training. I mean, my gosh, training, couch to 5K, couch to dopey. Is that even possible? Yeah, and the good question here is, what do you recommend for beginning, intermediate, and advanced runners? Rebecca, what's your take on training for these things, and where should people start? Just a 5K, or should they push themselves a little further?
I think that if you love Disney and you want an experience unlike anything else, and you can walk a 16-minute mile or faster, you should be doing the Run Disney races. So anything over a 5K in terms of length is going to require a 16-minute mile, which is just a brisk walk if you really think about it. But obviously, if you're a very, very beginner and just want to be a part of the weekend but not have a lot of strenuous activity or any anxiety that comes with maybe racing and activity and stuff like that, the 5Ks are genuinely like fun runs. They're not timed. Everyone gets to complete it regardless of how fast or how slow that you do it. You are mostly in the parks the entire time, so there's not a lot of road running or ramp running or hills or things like that. So it's a lot more of just getting to see the parks lit up, music playing, characters roaming around, TV screens showing, clips and features and things like that. So it's very much a fun run event. Our intermediates, I would also say that 10Ks are fair. Again, if you can hit that 16-minute mile, you can do a full marathon. You have no problem. It's just, can you walk for 7 hours nonstop at 16 minutes? And that's when it gets to be a little intense. If you're an advanced runner, training really depends on the amount of activity that you're already doing. Like right now, I haven't worked out in forever and I haven't ran in forever. My marathon training is going to start in July and it's probably going to be about 20 weeks or so. And it's going to take me from running 3 miles on the weekend to running 24 at the max and getting ready to do that 4 times in 4 days. It's a lot.
Yeah.
It just depends on what you're feeling.
Yeah. Jake, what about your recommendations for folks starting out here? And maybe also I should ask this question: which races are going to get me to run down Main Street in the Magic Kingdom? Because I think a lot of people think, all the Run Disney races I'm going to get, but not all of them actually go down Main Street in the Magic Kingdom. So if I really want to have that experience, how far do I have to go?
So let me start by saying that course maps are always subject to change. But recent years, the last 10 years, have shown trends that Princess Half Marathon and the Walt Disney World Half Marathon, those 2 races will go up and back World Drive. So you start off in Epcot, go up World Drive, you get to go down Main Street, like you said, Brian, you get to go through the castle, then you get to pass all of the Magic Kingdom resorts, Grand Floridian, Polynesian, and then loop back in to Epcot. So those are going to be your 2. Then if you're an Animal Kingdom fan, then Wine and Dine Half Marathon is for you, because that one goes through Disney's Animal Kingdom theme park, Disney's Hollywood Studios, and then you finish off in Epcot. Of course, the full marathon goes through all four parks. And then Springtime Surprise, it's kind of the wild card now, because we really don't know what's gonna happen. We were fortunate enough during the 10-miler to run through Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, through Batuu and Toy Story Land for the first time in Run Disney history. So I'm crossing my fingers and toes that comes back next year, because that was personally my favorite course that I've ever done at Disney, was that 10-miler. So, but Princess Half Marathon, Walt Disney World Half, those are your best bet for going down Main Street and running through the castle.
Nice. Yes, those are great races. Great races. And there is nothing better than kind of that run down Main Street. I think it's kind of it takes a lot of work to get there and a lot of work to get back. But for that, that little quarter-mile, half-mile stretch, it's a lot of fun. So
yeah, it's definitely worth it. And I would highly recommend for training the Jeff Galloway program, which is the official Run Disney training recommendation. That's the one that I use for my races, and it's worked out pretty well for me. The races, I mean, it has you running 3 times a week, which isn't horrible. And your weekday runs are only 30 to 45 minutes tops. And then your long runs, he sets them aside for the weekend. So if you work kind of that Monday through Friday schedule like I do, having your long run on the weekend really helps out, because nobody wants to run 10 miles on a Tuesday night after work. It's just not happening.
Yeah. And I can't emphasize enough how sort of gentle these races are for the runners in terms of pacing. And you got in the marathon, it was a character stop every mile. So you're talking about run a mile, you have an opportunity to stop, get a picture. They've got all kinds of on-course aid and support using Gatorade, water, gels, gummies, all that kind of stuff out on the course. So they take really good care of you while you're out there running. And so if this is like, I've been running a long time and I want to do my first marathon, this is not a bad one to do. I would say set your expectations appropriately on whether you're trying to set a PR or a personal record or not. I personally don't think the Disney races are the place to try to go set a PR, although Florida is very, very, very flat. So the only uphills you get are the on-ramps onto the freeways. So it's not terrible, but there's a big crowd usually at these races. So let's fast forward for one planning question. I mean, we're on a DVC show, so I think I want to talk to people about where to stay at the resort for a run weekend. Any thoughts there, Rebecca? Where is there an area or a particular resort that's better than others for people to stay at for a run weekend?
We've stayed at Saratoga for the springtime surprise in April, and then in Wine and Dine last year we were at Animal Kingdom Lodge. And we had amazing experiences at both resorts. I would argue that Saratoga's was a little bit more efficient because there were a lot of people. There's a lot more people staying there for one, and they had a lot more buses coming in and out. Any bus that doesn't share a bus with another resort is going to be your best option. So I know that the Boardwalk resorts, I think, all share a bus, all 5 of them. And sometimes they go full at stop 1 or 2 and don't really make it over to you. And I know that was an issue with the springtime surprise weekend, that there were a lot of people getting there right before they started the race and didn't even have time to like use the restroom or, finish stretching or things like that, because they just had to go straight into their corral. But at Saratoga and at Animal Kingdom Lodge, we never faced any problems with getting there on time or not getting a seat on the first bus that showed up.
Yeah, there are some resorts along the course. So if you're interested in cheering someone on, staying at a resort that's along the course, and Jake could call out, the course maps are out there, but they are subject to change. Boardwalk, I agree. We stayed there for marathon weekend, and it was nice to be in that Epcot resort area. It felt like the bus ride was maybe a little shorter, but maybe not. You're not walking back. I'll just say that, because the race ends outside of Epcot. I think if you're an AP holder, you have tickets, you can do that, but I found it much more efficient just to hop the bus and go back. So there's no advantage to being in a monorail resort or anything like that for race weekend. They're basically busing you over to the start line and then busing you back from the finish line, which is in the same general area. So, Jake, any favorite resorts for you for race weekends?
For me, it's going to be overall, if I'll give a blanket statement, the Magic Kingdom resort area, Bay Lake Tower, at the Contemporary, Polynesian, and Grand Floridian, simply because for example, Princess Weekend, this year for the half marathon, they were able to use the monorail and get to Epcot, which worked out really, really well. And then if you're going to do Wine and Dine, which leaves out of the Magic Kingdom parking area, TTC, Grand Floridian and Polynesian, you can't beat those because the bus ride is very quick. It's very unlikely that you'll get traffic just because you're already in that area. I mean, when we stayed at Grand Floridian for this past Wine and Dine, I think from bus to parking lot, I think it was under 5 minutes. And so it was beautiful. And then I'll echo what Rebecca said, Animal Kingdom Lodge. I've always had good experiences with the races there, simply because it's just you and Kidani Village. There's no other nearby resorts that they're picking up. And it seems to be that route seems to be just trafficless, I guess, the way that the bus kind of gets to go from there. Yeah. And it's a great place to stay. So Magic Kingdom resort area or Animal Kingdom Lodge, those are my top 2. Nice.
Yeah. Let's talk about a little bit more planning here. As you think about, planning your Disney vacation, you got to make some dining reservations, maybe some, am I going to get Genie Plus? What kind of rides do I want to go on? should I be planning for that kind of park experience? Should I be getting, the 10 a.m. dining reservation, Jake? Or should I be thinking a little bit differently when it comes to race weekends? Because here's the drawback, folks, that we haven't talked about yet. And we'll talk about it a little bit more later. Got to get out of bed early to get to these races. So, Jake, what kind of park experience should I anticipate having?
So what I like to do is before the races, especially if I'm doing a challenge, I'll really try to limit my park time just because I don't want to have more time on my feet than I have to. And I'll save, the fun, even though it's all fun, for the end after the races and everything. I typically, living in Florida, I'm fortunate enough that I can really, if the races start on Saturday, I'll try to check in on a Friday, like Friday night. That way I'm not tempted to go into a park and I don't have to like fight the temptation to see the Magic Kingdom from the Polynesian. Like, oh, I could be there in like 2 minutes. But no, I try to check in on a Friday, hit up the expo, have an early dinner, and try to be in bed early. Even if I don't fall asleep early, just being asleep, in bed and relaxing, it's time off your feet. You really don't want to be on your feet, especially for the Goofy Challenge or Dopey for the marathon. You really want to stay off your feet and be relaxed for the race. You don't want to risk not finishing, a big race over some rides that you can just do after, in my opinion.
All right, so Jake is not going to stick around for fireworks and the midnight kiss at the end at Disney World. Rebecca, you up for Harmonious the night before your race?
Absolutely not. You are in bed. You're eating dinner between 4 and 5 o'clock in bed, and we do the same thing. We purposely do not go into the Disney World area prior. Like when we are arriving for the weekend, it's straight to the expo at the Wide World of Sports. Get your stuff, go to dinner. We're usually carb loading that whole weekend and then heading back to the resort just to get some sleep. We put on the cartoons and we call it a night. There's no need to try and, because you realize that like you're going to be in the parks for the next 2 days or the next 3 days showing off your medals and things like that. You don't need to worry about getting anything extra right beforehand. Catch up on all the sleep that you can the night before, because it's the last time you're going to sleep for 72 hours.
Exactly.
All right, let's do a quick rapid fire with two of you over favorite restaurant to eat at the night before your big race. So, Rebecca, favorite spot?
Trattoria.
Trattoria Al Forno. Yes,
Yeah.
Nice. Jake?
Mine would be also Trattoria, but
Oh, well, there you go.
I'll throw in a backup and say Mama Moro's is a great option.
That's our backup.
I booked the reservation like right before park closing. That way, again, got to fight that temptation to go on a ride. But if the park's closed, you can't go on a ride. So it works out. It works out well.
There you go.
And
Carb
Studios
loading.
closes early. Studios, if it closes at 8, that's what I mean by park closing.
Yeah.
If it's closed later on, then you know what, we'll just have like a horse. We'll put our things there and just not see the rides.
Yes, carb loading is a must. Lots of great
Exactly.
food at Disney, but carb loading is a must. Just make sure you don't throw something in your stomach that's gonna not sit well with you.
No
for race
spicy
day.
food for me
Yes.
the night before.
No
a race.
cheese. I do light on cheese, light on spice, light on everything.
Let's talk about one other thing that happens before you even show up is you're going to get a corral assignment. Why are those important, and how can you get a better assignment for your corral? So, Jake, corral assignments.
So the easiest way to get your best corral assignment is, of course, submit a proof of time, which for the half marathon, it is under 2 hours and 15 minutes. So if you can provide proof, I believe a 10K or a half marathon will qualify, and they'll do an industry standard calculation. Unfortunately, 5Ks, I believe, do not qualify for proof of time. That's the first way. Or the second way is train really, really hard. If you don't have a proof of time, put in your anticipated race time when you think you're going to finish. For me, I always put, what was my best training run, and that's what I'll go ahead and input there. Train hard, and then you can be at the front of the corral. Or of course, I believe Club Run Disney Platinum gets you 1 or 2 spots up. It gets you upgraded corral placements. That's another way to do that. But simple way, proof of time is your best bet.
Yeah, the Club Run Disney gets you up to a certain point in the corral placement. Then after that, everyone is at time. Like they won't take a Club Run Disney person and put them in corral 1 if they would normally be in corral 3. They'll stay in corral 3, thankfully. So I don't want to get trampled by everyone behind me who's going to bowl me over. So yeah. Let's talk for a second about Expo Day. Actually, let's do some comments here, Gina. If we can throw some comments up. I know we've got Amy's got a comment here, and my go-to pre-race used to be the create your own pasta at POR. Yes,
Great
pasta.
option.
Everyone's going pasta. Everyone's going pasta.
Carbo load.
No tacos here. Oh my, I think yeah. So Gina's making the comment that she thinks people lie about their times for these corrals, and just we didn't define the term, but if you're not a runner out there, the corral placement it's the number. It's a designated area that you're going to go wait in, and they start by corral. So I think they go from how far up do they go, Rebecca? Do you know? It's like is it A through something or is it 1 through something?
It used to be letters, and then this past weekend, the Springtime Surprise, it was numbers. So
Okay.
it was corral A through like I for marathon weekends, but this Springtime Surprise was 1 through 4. So yeah, if you're usually don't put anyone in corral 1 unless you have that proof of time.
Mhm.
But again, I've seen some people, and I'm like, I don't know. I think you're lying, but I don't know. But for my first Run Disney race, even I run an 8 to 10 minute mile, I was still putting corral 3 because I didn't have a proof of time.
Yeah.
And so that was hard because I was like dodging, bobbing and weaving people. And eventually, I had a proof of time. So this last one I was put in corral 1, and it was like a world of difference, I will say, from running past people to like only seeing people running the entire time. And like I was my entire Run Disney experience, I was used to seeing people walking and stopping, and it was fun to like people watch and things like that. But then you get to a certain point when you're in corral 1 and no one is stopping, and you're like, okay, I can't be the one to stop. Like everyone around me is running. I have to keep running. But
Yeah. Well, those corral placements, they can make a big difference in terms of your race experience. So they're staggered
Indeed.
start. So yeah. Gina says the balloon ladies are real. Real. There we go. Real. Thank you. Yes, the balloon ladies are real. And for everyone out there, what a balloon lady is they pace the race. So there is a group of women every year who run at the back of the pack, the 16-minute pace. And if you get passed by a balloon lady, you're getting put on a bus and taken back to the finish line. So you got to keep up with them. Have either of you tried to ride a ride during the race? Because I've heard about people who, they hit Animal Kingdom at the right time and they'll do an Everest really fast. I can't imagine sitting down in a ride vehicle in the middle of a half marathon or a marathon and then, getting out the other end of it. But have either of you tried to ride a ride during the race?
Willie and I start too early and we finish too early. We're done before I would say 7:30 usually, and nothing's even open at that time for us to be able to do it. But I'm in, like you said, the Facebook groups and things like that. All these people that run the marathon are stopping in Animal Kingdom to ride Everest because it just reopened, and then they are getting margaritas in Mexico to cross the finish line with at Epcot. And they're like they look forward to that. And that's what's so cool about Run Disney is that that's your race experience. That's what you want to do, that you get to do that. I want to go as fast as I can, and I still get to do that. So it's funny.
Yeah. Well, let's shift over to race weekend itself. Where the day has arrived, or the weekend has arrived. Expo. What happens at this mythical race expo? Jake, first place you're headed at the expo. What happens? What are you doing at the expo?
So the expo is pretty much where the hub, I guess is the best way to call it, for the race weekend. You have the first building that you're going to see on your right when you walk in, which is one of the arenas. That is going to be where you get all of your like Run Disney merchandise for the weekend that you can pay for. So magnets, pins, water bottles, t-shirts, dry fit t-shirts, all of that good stuff will be in that first building.
Third party stuff too. It's over at ESPN Wide World of Sports, right?
Third party is in a separate building now.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it's over at ESPN Wide World of Sports still.
Right. It's at ESPN Wide World of Sports. So your first one is going to be just Run Disney specific merchandise. Then once you're done with that, or really you can do these in any order you want. My recommendation is go for the merchandise first because those sell out.
It goes.
Right.
Yeah.
Your second stop, these have to go in order. You have to go to a building to get your bib. So you'll show your Expo pass, your check-in pass that you screenshot on your phone with your bib number. You'll pick up your bib, and attached to that bib will be your T-shirt, piece of paper. Take that paper, go to a different building, which is where, Brian, you mentioned you have all the third-party vendors, like the places where you can get bib clips and different running gear. It's not Disney stuff. It's just, third-party vendors, I guess is the best way to describe it.
Yeah.
And in that building, you also get your included T-shirt, which Run Disney will supply you a T-shirt for each race. And then if you're doing the challenge, you'll get a bonus T-shirt. And that's included with the cost of your race. For Princess and Springtime Surprise, you'll typically get a short sleeve shirt. Wine and Dine and Marathon Weekend, you'll get a long sleeve shirt, typically.
Yeah. And if you sign up for like a Dopey, you're getting 4 shirts. Actually, you get 5 because you get
You
one
get
for each
6.
race. Oh, 6. That's right. You
For the
get one for
Goofy.
each race, the Goofy and the Dopey shirt. Yeah. And Goofy similar. You get an extra shirt for the Goofy. And I'll say the third party vendor stuff is really kind of fun. We got like a frame that houses our medals from the different race weekends. There was a company that was making those, which was really cool. Rebecca, favorite piece of merch you've gotten out of Run Disney so far? Because that is, I think Jake's right, that's the most popular area to head to.
Oh my gosh, I'm obsessed with the shirts that they give us. I know Willie has said that they've actually changed to, like, it used to be like a dry fit Under Armour material. But I'm obsessed with the themed shirts that just come with your registration. But outside of all of that, I have the Springtime Surprise Tervis water bottle that's like literally a liter of water that I'm like dinging with people with and stuff like that. And my first half marathon finisher magnet that sits on the back of my car. I did the challenge that weekend, and so I did it 19.2 miles or whatever sitting on the back of my car, and that's always gonna make me feel good. So
Nice. Yeah, the Tervis I still have a Marathon Weekend Tervis I take with me on the cruises, actually, that I love. And I've got a fun, the Marathon Weekend we did the first year was, it was retro. It was like these retro character, like 80s almost style graphics. And so it was really cool. It's a lot of fun. Well, we got some people commenting here. Gina said, mine was Haunted Mansion New Balance. Is that shoes, Gina? Did you get New Balance, like Haunted Mansion themed shoes? Because that would be really, really cool.
That'd be cool.
I'm making a beeline for the metal replica pens. Yeah, those are cool. They're
Those
little
go quick.
Those go really fast. Yeah, really fast. And Sam says, I love the Rothred's Disney license.
I'm wearing my Rothred shirt right now. That's my favorite third party.
I did it in shirts until they stopped putting course maps on them. Yeah, I like the year the Marathon Weekend we did, they actually had, I don't know if they still do this, they have the symbols for the parks that you run on down one of the sleeves, which I thought was really kind of fun to see. So
the ones for the Wine and Dine and the Springtime Surprise have the 50th logo on them as well, because you're doing that during the anniversary. So that was really cool.
All the medals had the 50 on them.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, race day has arrived. Oh, Amy's saying yes, Gina, the New Balance shoes were the best. I had all the New Balance does some fun stuff with theme shoes for sure. Yeah. All right. So running day has arrived. Race day has arrived. Rebecca, what time am I getting up in the morning?
It's about 2:30 in the morning. You need to be on the bus by 3:30, and to get everything that you need ready for race, and to make sure your bib is on correctly, and that you have, Vaseline put in all the places, and your hair is exactly how you want. It's a good hour before, and because you don't know what the bus could look like, what the transportation to the corrals could look like, it's always important to just be a little bit earlier, err on the side of caution. So we get up about 2:30.
Yeah. And let's just clarify, that is 2:30 a.m. 02:30. So we just lost half of our listeners. Let's be really clear. 2:30 in the morning. It is early. Jake, any strategies for race morning that you like to follow? Like, I always had my clothes laid out, so I did not wake up the rest of the family. I had something ready to go to eat in the morning that was really easy to just grab and go. But yeah, any tips and tricks you have for race day morning?
So for me, it starts the night before. I like to set a wake-up call on my phone at the hotel, and Disney wake-up calls are perfect because they're really loud. So I've slept through my phone before for a race weekend, but I have never slept through a wake-up call. So I always set that up, and I like to wake up at 2 a.m., usually 1:45, 2 a.m., because I really like to give myself time to stretch in the room. I like to take a shower. I like to have my clothes all laid out, and I'm one that cannot be rushed in the morning. I take my time at at home. So I have to do the same thing on vacation because if not, it'll just throw me off. I will get my roller and start rolling, and I'll do that, have coffee, watch some TV, and then I try to be at the bus line by 3 a.m. just because I like to get to the race start early, do more stretching, take pictures, see people that I know, chit chat, and then start the race. Try to elongate the day a little bit, make it even longer.
Yeah. And as brutal as 2:30 in the morning sounds, and the bus, I will say waking up at 2:30, getting to the bus, getting on the bus, getting to the start line, there's no two ways around it. It's a little bit brutal. But once you get to the start line, I think there's a lot of energy, a lot of stuff you can do to keep yourself occupied beyond just stretching. There's character meets, there's things like that. So good energy at the start line, I'd say. You agree, Rebecca?
You got to think about it's not 2:30 a.m. because something horrible is going on, but it's like 2:30 a.m. waking up for vacation, waking up for you're so excited that you can't even sleep because your flight is in the morning. Like, you're going to do something crazy and exciting. Like, it's a very happy 2:30 in the morning. I will say there's like a minute and a half where you're like, why am I doing this? And then especially if you're doing more than one race on a weekend, you're like, again, but like that minute and a half goes by so quickly. And I think what Jake is saying is really important. Keeping your schedule, like whatever you normally do to get ready in the morning, I'm still going to go to the bathroom, sit on my phone for 5 to 7 minutes and, still keep my routine as close as I can, because that's going to help you for the rest of your day. Cause you're still going to, stay up, go to the parks. Our biggest tip, take a nap after you're done.
Yes.
We shower,
Yeah,
get in bed, sleep till about 9 or 10, go have a nice carb-loaded breakfast, and then head out to the parks. Like, we're not rushing to get back on our feet after you've done a race. So
see, after the marathon, I went straight to Magic Kingdom to get some photos in front of the castle and to Casey's Corner for a chili dog. So there you go.
There you go.
All right. Well, we get to the starting line. We get in the corrals. We run our race. We talked a lot about the encore support, the characters there. What happens at the end? What happens at the end of the race? I make it across the finish line. I beat the balloon ladies. Maybe I even set a personal record. Got my medal. Am I just walking back to a bus, or do they have something fun going on at the end of these races, Jake?
So once you're done with your race, it's the best part. You get your medal, which is, it's why you run all these photos. There's
a
picture
photo
of that's my
Yeah.
medal, actually.
Nice.
There's another set of my medals right there. You get your 1 or 2, or if you are dopey, your 3 medals. Get that. Then you'll get either a Mylar blanket, usually from runDisney, or a cooling towel. It just depends on the weather conditions and what they think would be best for you when you finish a race. You'll get your famous snack box with
Yes.
the plastic cheese that people just go nuts for, and I don't blame them. You get that, and you get Powerade, Dasani water, and then you're greeted by the lovely DJ playing some tunes, and you could just jam out with your medal, take photos, and then you get your awesome medal, like she said, from your volunteer. Amy actually gave me my medal for Tower of Terror 10 miler. So that was one of the coolest medal pickups I've ever had. It's just a lot of fun. It's the best part of the race, in my opinion.
And it's a good call out too. If you are not a runner, but you want to support a runner in your family who wants to do one of these, there are ways to volunteer at race day. So it's a fun time. And there's also lots of spots on course where you can go cheer people on, which is also really fun for the runners. So
especially the boardwalk I see a lot of people cheering people on in the boardwalk. That's a fun one.
Yeah. Well, Rebecca, you said that you like to, after the post race, a little nap. Where are you headed after? Where's your go-to spot post race?
It's usually to a nice breakfast or brunch. So we've really enjoyed going to Steakhouse 71 for a post breakfast, because they have this like massive platter that has like everything that you could ever want for breakfast. Or if you're avid runners like us, we are actively scrolling the results page to see if we've placed for our age group or for the groups in general.
And you won one recently. You won, didn't you?
Stop. I got third place. Yes, I got third place in one of our races. It was a 10K, the 10K for the springtime surprise.
I had a running team that was third place in a group run that we did for our age group, and it was only because there were 4 groups and one group did not finish. So, but I will proudly walk around with that winning belt buckle for as long as I can. So there you go.
And After that, we're headed to the parks. It's to take pictures with your medals and your t-shirts. You know, some people run in their t-shirts that they get. They're very breathable and light. We like to wear them afterwards to the parks to take pictures in them with the medals, especially after the challenge. You have all of them just like
Yeah.
swinging the entire time and they're snacking. And that's the best part about, or one of the best parts of the weekend is just going to the parks and seeing everyone else do the same thing. And like Jake said earlier, like congratulating random people for just being like, you finished, good job, was this your first one? You know, it's such an easy conversation starter.
Yeah.
And then the people that don't know the race is happening, they're like, you ran all that? When? And you're like, oh, this morning at like 5. And they're like,
And you can
oh,
educate them. There you
Yeah.
go. And then they'll be signing up next year. That's how it works.
And every cast member, because your local race, you get your medal, you're typically like, okay, I got my medal, and then you throw it in the car and you're going home, and that's it. At Disney, you wear those medals in the park. Every cast member is going to give you congratulations. It's a lot of fun to wear those medals through. And actually, to go back to the merch for a second, I was going to put a plug in quickly for if they have a magic band for race weekend. I got one for marathon weekend that I love to this day. And when I put it up to the reader, it flashes a different color, and then you hear a crowd cheering. It plays this crowd going, yay.
Those are the
So
best.
it's a lot of fun. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
Those are the best.
All right. Well, I feel like the balloon ladies are catching up to us this evening, and we are running quickly out of time. But I wanted to pause and just say, Rebecca, Jake, any last tips? Anything we didn't hit on that people should definitely know about before they sign up for a Run Disney event? Why don't we start with you, Rebecca?
Not the most important thing. One of the more important things is making sure that any run that you're going to do outside of Disney is not going to equate to the joy that you're going to have and to the adrenaline that you're going to feel on a race day. And it's very important to have active recovery afterwards. Your body is going to go through some really crazy things during those weekends, and it can get easy to kind of get sidetracked by all the hustle and bustle and, you know, wanting to just sit in bed, but that can actually do a lot more damage than good. So going to the parks, allow yourself to feel the pain and the burn, and earned some food, you worked it off already before anybody else has even gotten up. And then understand that this is something that 1% of the world does for fun, is race and run and do things with your body that are just unimaginable to a normal person. So be proud of yourself regardless of what happens or however you finish or whatever race you do, and know that everyone is supporting you no matter what.
Jake, what about you? Any last tips for folks out there?
For me, it's just do your training. And even if you're going to do the gallery program, it's okay to miss a couple. No one, at least most people, don't do it all to a T, but get your training in, time on your feet, because I promise you, it will be a 10 times better experience if you are well trained, well prepared. Because if you're not, it's by mile. If you're doing a half marathon by mile 9, it's not going to be fun. But if you want to make sure that you finish with a smile on your face when you're crossing the finish line, and that happens with good training. So promise you'll have a much better experience. I know it's tough to do it at home if you're on a treadmill or you're battling the Florida heat like I am outside, but it'll be worth it. I promise.
Yeah, my only tip for folks out there is if you're looking to try this, I think it's a great way to try out racing. And then Jake, great point about being trained up. I think that's super important. And yeah, training has its ups and downs, and you may not be perfect on it, but do the training, do the work, put in the work. It'll make race day all that much better. And then I just always like to remind people, run your race, run the mile you're in, and run your race, because you're going to be in a big crowd of people running their races. And if you try to keep up with them and you're not running yours, it's going to become a miserable day. So run your race. You trained for it. Go out there, have fun, and enjoy it. So, well, with that, I think we just got to wrap things up here and say thanks to everyone out there for watching. Get out there. Every mile is magic, right? That's the not the logo, the motto for Run Disney. Every mile is magic. So if you're looking at signing up, I think it's a great thing to do, and have a great time and train up and have fun. Thanks, Jake and Rebecca, for joining me tonight about Run Disney.
Of course.
Bye. Thank you.